let's talk about the Biden Inflation Reduction Act, shall we? Even Bernie Sanders said the bill will not have any effect on inflation at all. But it's called the Inflation Reduction Act. Everything in it. It's going to have a big chunk of corporate welfare for green energy companies. It's got a 15% tax on corporations. Corporations don't pay taxes. They pass them along to you as a consumer in the form of higher prices, or to workers in the form of lower wages, or to investors in the form of lower return on equity. They don't pay taxes. They pass them along to somebody else. The bill raises corporate taxes through the minimum tax. It has a hidden gas tax. And Stephen Moore, the economist, said, and I'm quoting him, "I've never seen anything like this in my 35 years. This will bankrupt our country," end of quote. Stephen Moore, the economist, as opposed to Jared Bernstein, who's Biden's top economic advisor, the one you mostly see on television. He's a member of his Council of Economic Advisors with an undergraduate degree, as we've talked about before, in music. The man played the double bass. He also has advanced degrees in social work and in philosophy. The man does not have a degree in economics. And still, when he was interviewed on Fox, Dana Perino referred to him as an economist, and he didn't dispute it.
On the jobs front, it would be interesting to know, and we just hear it anecdotally, but a lot of people are having to work 2 jobs in order to afford gas and their electric bills and getting their kids back, getting that dorm room ready and getting those kids back in school this fall. And on the Manchin-Schumer reconciliation deal, I do have a question for you. Is it your opinion as an economist that it is a good idea to raise taxes during a recession?
He didn't say, no, Dana, I'm not an economist. I'm a musician. I play double bass. I've got advanced degrees in social work and in philosophy. No, she called him an economist. He promptly responds, is there a law against impersonating an economist? Now, Biden has spent so much money already. Not too bad for somebody who's got a 50-50 margin in the Senate. $1.9 trillion American Recovery Act. I'm old enough to remember when $1 billion was a lot of money. Now $1 trillion is nothing. $550 billion so-called Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. $280 billion creating helpful incentives to produce semiconductors, chips. $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act. As Politico pointed out, these expenditures amount to roughly $3.5 trillion and address a lot of left-wing policies such as, quote, the pandemic and its economic fallout, highways, bridges, broadband, rail, manufacturing, science, prescription drug prices, health insurance, climate change, deficit reduction, and tax equity, close quote. This is why we are facing the kind of inflation we're facing right now. Washington Examiner said this: unprecedented printing money, federal spending make it harder for businesses to rebuild, leading to empty store shelves and out-of-control prices. Years of left-wing policies have progressively gummed up the engines of our economy, and we're all now paying the price. Instead of facing reality and stopping the damage, writes the Washington Examiner, Biden and the Dems have announced yet another legislative package filled with even more pork and misguided policies. The Biden administration pretends it's not happening and has opted for tone-deaf nitpicking over the definition of a recession. And as I mentioned, the law authorizes up to 87,000 new IRS agents. Here's what Senator Lindsey Graham said about this.
I couldn't believe it when I read it. They're talking about expanding the IRS 2.5 times. Enough new IRS agents to fill up Williams-Brice Stadium and get back. So when you go to the football game this fall, just imagine everybody to your left and right being IRS agent. Look at how it changes the department. 78,000 current employees. We're going to add 87,000 new ones in the next 10 years. Wonder what they will be up to. If you think the federal government is out of control now, God help us when you get 87,000 new IRS agents who are looking under every rock and stone to get money out of your pocket. This is bigger than the British Army. So my belief is that we probably need a bigger British Army and a smaller IRS.
Now, 87,000 more IRS agents will make the IRS larger than the Border Patrol, the FBI, the State Department, and the Pentagon combined. And we already know that 75% of IRS audits target Americans making under $200,000. There's almost no accountability, and they want to add 87,000 more. Absolutely outrageous. Now, Joe Biden, well, he is in mid-season form. Despite reading directly from a teleprompter, he struggled.
You know, NATO was formed out of the wreckage of World War II, as we all know, where war, you know, it had, look, just be straight about it. Wars have repeatedly riven the continent, engulfed the world in conflicts, and there's no way to avoid that if we're not together.
Come on, you know the thing. Let me hear that one more time. I just not quite sure. Maybe it's me.
You know, NATO was formed out of the wreckage of World War II, as we all know, where war, you know, it had, look, just be straight about it. Wars have repeatedly riven the continent, engulfed the world in conflicts, and there's no way to avoid that if we're not together.
Let's just be straight about it. And whatever he has, whatever affliction he has he given it to Nancy Pelosi? Did she say China was one of the freest countries in the world? I think she did.
We still support the one China policy. We go there to acknowledge the status quo is what our policy is. There was nothing disruptive about that. It was only about saying China is one of the freest societies in the world. Don't take it from me. That's from Freedom House.
Let's talk a little bit.
Democracy, courageous people, and it's just, I don't know why it is, except there's some commercial interests who would like to diminish the relationship.
I think she meant Taiwan, one of the freest societies. She said China. Now, Biden immigration. Border officials suspended Trump-era rules that required a certain number of migrants to wait for their asylum hearings in Mexico. It's called the Wait in Mexico policy. It's now been reversed. We already have, as mentioned, something like 2 million illegal aliens in America since Biden has been in office, and now a Trump-era policy that stopped many migrants from coming up here is now being reversed. And that is why some of these mayors, like the one in D.C. and the one in New York, is so unhappy, because governors, like the ones in Texas, are sending busloads of illegal aliens to New York and to Washington, D.C. Since Biden won't do anything about it, maybe you guys can put a little pressure on Biden to do something about it now that the problem has come to your cities. This brings us to MyPillow. And I always travel with a MyPillow. I do not leave home without my MyPillow. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to MyPillow.com and call the number on the screen. Use promo code ELDER. If you'd like MyPillow products, they've got My Slippers, they've got My Towels, they've got sheets, they've got all kinds of product. You should see my house loaded with MyPillow stuff. So, call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com and be sure and use promo code ELDER. You're not getting this pillow. I'm taking this one with me. Now, Serena Williams has announced she's going to retire after the next U.S. Open, which begins in late August. If she wins, she'd be tied with Margaret Court for a record 24 Grand Slam titles. In recent years, she struggled. She, of course, had a baby, and she's also 41 years old, an age at which most athletes have already retired, no matter the sport. But she said, I never liked the word retirement, and she feels that as a woman, she has a double burden because she wants to be a mom. And she said, if I were people like Tom Brady, who's been playing late, he's also 45 years old, has 3 kids, played in the NFL for 22 seasons, and is still going strong. She said, I never wanted to choose between tennis and a family. I don't think it's fair. If I were a guy, I wouldn't be writing this because I'd be out there playing and winning while my wife was doing the physical labor of expanding our family. In other words, women have babies and men don't. I'm not quite sure to whom she should complain. Maybe the man upstairs. It is true that if you are an athlete and you want to have a kid, you're going to have to take time away from your sport. Isn't that biology? Isn't that life? And if she's saying that as a female, I have more household duties than men, this is a woman who's got a net worth of probably up to $200 million. You can certainly afford to provide and pay for as much help as you need. But I don't think you can pay for somebody to be pregnant for you. So I'm not quite sure what she's complaining about. Is she complaining that she has to retire because she wants to expand her family? Even if she weren't expanding her family at the age of 41, it's awfully difficult for you to win titles against people who are half your age. Now, yesterday, we talked about a 80-year-old store owner who shot a robber in the arm. Let's revisit.
All right, now to our other top story here at 4. A store owner turns the tables on a would-be robber. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Juan Fernandez.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Suh. This is KCAL 9 News at 4, streaming on CBS News Los Angeles. A man armed with what looked like an assault rifle was no match for the owner of a Riverside County convenience store.
The frightening face-off was all caught on security cameras. KCAL 9's Jake Reiner is live in Norco. And Jake, the owner, is in the hospital?
That's correct. He's recovering from a heart attack, Juan and Susie. This guy is 80 years old, and he's owned the Norco market behind me since 1967. And according to one of his employees, he already wants to come back to work.
So this 80-year-old guy shoots a suspect in his arm, and you heard the suspect yell and scream, "I got shot in the arm! I got shot in the arm!" He's lucky. Maybe the owner was aiming for his head. Now, this brings us to the fact that the FBI undercounts the number of times in which an armed citizen thwarts an attack, possibly saving his or her life or avoiding serious bodily injury. The Crime Prevention Research Center suggests that the FBI undercounts by an order of more than 3 the actual number of instances in which armed citizens have thwarted attacks, saving, as the Crime Prevention Research Center puts it, untold number of lives. The Bureau reports that only 11 of the 252 active shooter incidents it identified over a period of 2014 to 2021 was stopped by an armed citizen. An analysis, however, by the Crime Prevention Research Center identified a total of 281 active shooter incidents and found that 41 of them were stopped by an armed citizen, or 3 times as many as the FBI has documented. Now, China. The United States gave away breakthrough battery technology to China, according to the NPR. Listen to this. When a group of engineers and researchers gathered at a warehouse in Washington State 10 years ago, they knew they were onto something big. They scrounged up tables and chairs, cleared out space in the parking lot for experiments, and got to work. They were building a battery, a vanadium redox flow battery based on a design created by 24 U.S. scientists in a government lab. The batteries were about the size of a refrigerator, held enough energy to power a house, and could be used for decades. A big, big breakthrough. The engineers pictured people using them next to their air conditions, attaching solar panels to them, and making sure that everybody lives happily ever after off the grid. One of the scientists, engineers who worked there, said it was beyond promise. We were seeing it functioning as designed, as expected, end of quote. But that ain't what happened. Instead of the batteries, writes NPR, becoming the next great American success story, the warehouse is now shuttered and empty. All the employees who worked there were laid off. And more than 5,200 miles away, guess what? A Chinese company is hard at making the batteries there. The China company did not steal the technology. It was given to them by the Department of Energy. First in 2017 as part of a sub-license, and later in 2021 as part of a license transfer. An investigation by NPR and the Northwest News Network found that the federal agency allowed the technology and jobs to move overseas, violating its own licensing rules while failing to intervene on behalf of U.S. workers in several instances. Now China has forged ahead, writes NPR, investing millions in this cutting-edge green technology that was supposed to help keep U.S. and the economy out front. Duh. Washington Post now strikes again. A congresswoman died. Jackie Walorski, Republican, died in a car crash, along with 2 aides and another driver. But WAPO could not resist slamming her in the obituary they wrote about her. Here's what the Washington Post said. Walorski voted against certifying President Biden's victories in both Arizona and Pennsylvania after the January 6 attacks on the Capitol that left more than 100 law enforcement officials injured. End of quote. Why would you put that in the obituary column? Let's take another whack at a politician for supporting the insurrection of January 6. This brings us to the great city of Portland. Its mayor has admitted homicides have increased 200% over last year. Keep in mind, this is a defund the police, soft on crime city. A little more than 2 years ago, the mayor, his name is Ted Wheeler, announced he was disbanding the police department's gun violence reduction team. And in the months afterwards, not too surprisingly, crime and shootings dramatically increased. A little more than a year later, Wheeler did a 180, Wheeler did a wheelie, and announced a new focused intervention team with the same mission, only to find a lack of volunteers within the Portland Police Bureau eager to sign up for the job. After months of struggling, the new unit has hit the streets, but so far has not had much of an impact. And once again, a disproportionate number of black men and black teenagers and adult men continue to be disproportionately impacted by the shootings and the homicides. They represent nearly half of the suspects and the victims in these shootings, but they make up, get this, only 6% of the population. The people who were most hurt by this ridiculous defund the police movement were the very ones that people on the left, like Mayor Ted Wheeler, claims that they care about. Now, as you know, you can call the show. 888-971-7243, 888-971-SAGE, and we're going to take a couple of calls right now. Hope you enjoyed that video. The full show is available to watch right now on Epoch TV. Just click the link in the description below to learn more, because we've got a country to save.